welcome to the Flamin' Fiber Podcast. Ugh, this sweater, I'll talk about that. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Diva S. Thank you for all the comments and messages since the last podcast. I know many of you are watching the daily Corona vlogs, and I really appreciate that community who is talking to me and telling me about their lives. I have the sun on the top of my head, but the sun's moving that way, so I should move more into the shade, which may or may not be a good thing because my umbrella is red, which could completely throw off my colors, but it is what it is. I did my vlog this morning. It is a cool, gorgeous, wonderful day. It's a little bit breezy. The temperature is 70 maybe. And so it feels a little cool when the breeze blows, but my sweater I'm wearing is perfect, which I will talk about in a minute. All right. Well, maybe I'll talk about them now since it's an FO. This is my sea salt sweater. I wrote it down because I'm terrible. By Fogbound Knits, Laura Aylor. This yarn is Yoshi and Lucy yarn. Yoshi and Lucy. And it is in the Amelia base, which is 100% superwash merino. It's a DK weight. And the color is Dark Magic, which I recently bought. It's one of my new acquisitions. See, I keep having to fix it around my bra strap, which is a bit of a problem. But I did a little video showing the full body just now, and so I'll put it right here. So here is, oops, I need to fix my camera so it goes down a little further so you can see my sea salt. This is the one that I made out of Yoshi and Lucy. Oh, I don't know how much I should talk while I do this because I'm going to talk about it, but see how I'm adjusting my sleeves? Yeah, that's the problem with this one. I'm thinking about going out and getting another skein of this yarn so I can fix the neckline a little bit, but otherwise I'm absolutely in love with how this fits me. It's a negative ease, which is not the pattern, but I'm really happy with it, and it's perfect for today. Okay. So as I mentioned in the video, the problem I'm having with it is the neckline is a little bit too wide and my bra straps keep showing. So I keep fussing with the neckline. I am really tempted to see if I can buy another skein of this yarn just so I can put another inch around here because I used almost every inch of this yarn. So, if I want to make this any bigger, I would have to buy another skein of yarn. But I'm happy to do that. Well, I'm not happy to do that, but I'll do it. I have to go look on their Etsy shop and see if I can find more of this. Or I could message them and see if they will make me a DK Dark Magic. Because even if it doesn't match exactly, this is a picked up and knit neckband. So if it's slightly different, it probably won't matter. And it's in garter stitch, which I think, you know, hides all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I don't know if my theory on the sun, I mean, it does really set over there. So I don't know why I'm getting more sun. It'll be fine. This morning, my neighbor next door was working in his yard with his power tools, and so I was afraid to record this earlier and afraid that you would be hearing him. So we took the dogs for a walk, we washed the sheets, they're on the line. I do love line dried sheets, although these are our winter sheets. They're like a brushed cotton, so we won't put them back on the bed until, you know, October. I'm drinking LaCroix, as we say in the United States, or La Croix, as Leslie says, because it's French, and apparently that's how you're supposed to say it. I'm having the Pamplemousse, which is also French. It's French for grapefruit. I got this because Chevis from the Chevy Rail Stuff podcast made a drink out of this. The grapefruit with lime and vodka over ice, and it looked refreshing and delicious. And so I went to the store looking for grapefruit. They had lemon, they had this, they had that, they had everything, and then they had pamplemousse. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure pamplemousse is French for grapefruit. Why I remember that, I don't know. I took French for 2 years in high school. But somehow I thought, this is, you know, so I go to checkout, I take one, I go to checkout, and the, you know, young kids at the checkout, I'm like, get your phone out, will you, and check, because my phone, of course, was in the car. Check if pamplemousse is grapefruit. They're like, oh, we're not allowed to have our phones up here, So anyway, I bought it. It turns out it is grapefruit. I scoured the entire box that these cans came in. Nowhere did it have the word grapefruit, you know, like English. Oh, interesting how the lights changed. The sun is going behind a cloud, and now I'm suddenly brighter. How does that happen? Anyway, I like it plain. Leslie did not enjoy hers. She had the limoncello. I don't know if she was expecting it to be sweetened like a soda, like a, you know, soda drink, rather than just a sparkling water with natural essence. I'm not sure. All right. My hair looked pretty good this morning, but now it's getting, oh well, it doesn't matter. I've decided I am color blocked. My hair is color blocked. I got gray and then red. I'm seriously thinking about keeping the gray because I'm curious, you know. Although the red has, I felt like it was like a expression of my inner rebel. I don't know. I don't know that gray expresses my inner rebel, but it does express my reality of my body. So I'm still thinking about it. I haven't decided. So anyway, I am really, really happy with this sea salt. And you saw a little bit of the arm in the last podcast, and I had started swatching on this yarn to try to figure out my gauge because I had no idea. I have no idea what my row gauge is always off. And so this is knit from the end of a sleeve across the top and down a sleeve. And so you've got this little tiny yoke. You can see in the front it's only this many stitches. This yoke. And then you pick up the stitches and you knit the body and the round down. So you're doing sleeves and a yoke, so you can actually try it on. So when I was making this, because I have so much trouble with my row gauge, I did the sleeve, I love this sleeve cap, I did across the front, and then I figured out where the center of my chest is, and I knit to that and counted how many rows, and then I did the same thing on the other side. So I did not go by the pattern in terms of how many rows to knit across. I went by my body and figured out which one, you know, how far to go, because it would have been much wider had I followed the pattern. So I knitted as long as I could. I'm very happy with the length. My only problem is this. Now I do have double-sided tape, and I could just put double-sided tape on my shoulders and that would solve my problem, because I'm tired, you know, I've been wearing it all day, and it's like 2 o'clock now, 2:15, and I've been fussing with it. I mean, I don't care at home if my bra straps show, but I went for a walk and I'm on the video, and anyway, so I need to figure out if I'm okay with the tape, then maybe I'll just tape. But I'm tempted to just buy another skein of yarn and have my neck band much wider, and then I won't have to think about it. So I might try that. But I have no idea if they have this, but I might contact. We shall see, because this could be a finished object again next time. Let's see. This version of the sea salt has a lot of negative ease, and I did the shaping. The pattern has waist shaping, And so the only real change that I made was I didn't make it as wide across the front and across the yoke as I had originally, as the pattern said. This was so fun to knit. Really, really fun to knit. So as I was finishing this one up, I had ordered some yarn from the Crafty Toads. I knew it was going to take a while to come because they didn't even have the dye in stock. They were waiting for the dye to come. So I knew it wasn't coming anytime soon. And I was going to make the Fable Sweater by, I wrote that down. I think I wrote it right, but I'm not sure. Alicia Plummer. Alicia Plummer. She had a discount on that a month ago or something. It was brand new and I liked it. It's a summer v-neck sweater, and so I decided I would make that, but I wanted to make it pink. I don't have any pink, really have pink in my stash. I mean, I could do a fadey thing with it and make it kind of read pink, but I decided I wanted to try the Crafty Toads Cotton-Eyed Toad, which is 50% merino, 50% cotton, and they had shown the Joy colorway on their podcast, and I really liked it, so I thought I'm gonna make that. So I've ordered the yarn for that, and when it comes I will start the Fable. But meanwhile, I finished this and the yarn hadn't come yet, and I really enjoyed knitting it, so I decided to knit another one. So I have two finished, oops, earthquake, finished sea salts. There's my Maisie girl. Say hi. Say hi. Yeah. Maisie's under the table. I don't know if you can see her under there. Hi, puppy. Yeah. So anyway, so I made another sea salt. And this one qualifies for the stash mail. I have owned this yarn for probably 6 years. Maybe 5. I got it from Yarn Box, and when I got it I decided, oh, the bright colors, blah blah blah. I had no idea what it would knit up like, and so I bought more of it. And interestingly, I used 4 skeins, which is how many skeins? This is what it looks like balled up. 4 skeins, stop. Hey you, munchkin. 4 skeins of the Yoshi and Lucy, and I barely had enough. I used 4 skeins of this, and I have lots. I could redo the neckline of this one if I wanted to, but I don't need to because it's big enough, because it works really well. This is the yarn Fiberlady Makicat. It's 70% bamboo and 30% cotton. So this was from my Yarn Box box, and it turned out to be stripy yarn. Now, I got pooling on the arms till it went down to stripe, and I used the same skein for both yarns. This yarn pooled a little bit, but it pooled looking a little more stripy than the other one. This one, not quite so stripy, but it's fine. So when I went to change to add more yarn in the middle, it messed up my stripes. I thought I had matched the stripe, but I had not. So I have this funny little stripe down the middle of my belly. It's even more evident in the back, and the reason I didn't stop and try to fix that was I wasn't really aware until I had gone quite a ways that I was back to striping, because I was paying attention here and it looked like it was pooling, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna have stripes on the top and pools on the bottom and it'll be fine. Turned out I just went back to striping, and by the time I realized that, I wasn't really interested in going back and fixing it. So it doesn't really bother me. Now this one I wanted big and drapey. I had lots of yarn. I wanted it big and drapey, so I did the same thing with this one as I did with the first one, except I went up 2 sizes in the pattern because I didn't want the sleeves. See how these sleeves are very snug, comfortable, fit me fine, but snug. But I didn't want these sleeves to be snug, so I went up a couple sizes so I would have a bigger sleeve, and that worked out really, really well. Then I did the same thing going across. I have something I had to fix here. The same thing going across. Oh, you know why? Because I have a bigger size. This is the top of my shoulder, and this is the beginning of my neck. So my shoulder on this is only like 1 inch. But my shoulder on this one is more like 2 inches. That's the difference. That's the difference. Okay, so that makes sense. So I did the same thing. I put the sleeve on and I measured across to the middle and stopped. And I had significantly fewer rows than the pattern on this one by like 40. Like 40 rows across the front. Yeah, crazy. So I did it, by measurement. And so this bodice fits me about the same as this bodice, other than this whole issue with the shoulders. So that's interesting. Okay, so I got wider because of the 2 sizes I went up. I got a wider shoulder on this one. And it makes all the difference right there. Now I can still fix it with widening the neckband. So I can still do that if I get another skein of the yarn. In theory, I could Leslie it and just find a DK gray and just put a little band here, but I don't think I want to do that. I'm not brave like her. So anyway, so I did the top, but as I said, I significantly cut down the number of rows going across when I did this. So when I went to pick up the stitches, I didn't really have that in my mind. So when I picked up the stitches, the number of stitches I picked up were not as many as it said to pick up for my new big size, but it was, close. I was probably 30, 40 stitches all the way around, fewer. So I picked up significantly more stitches on this smaller yoke than the pattern called for. And you can see, I wore this all day the other day. I wore it on my vlog. But you can still see that there's a little bit of kind of gathering or fullness on the body from the beginning. And I was a little concerned when I was knitting it that fullness would show, and it would show like a little bit of a ripple, but you can't, you maybe even can't even notice it. I don't know that I even notice it anymore because I wore the sweater. But that's right where my top starts getting bigger. It's right here. So then my boobs come into play. So it turns out it was perfect. I love the way this sweater fits me. So I didn't do any body shaping. I wanted it drapey and looser than this one, this one. And I am really tickled with how it came out. Now, it's kind of crazy, bold, whatever, but I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm going to put 2 pictures side by side. I'm going to have Dennis take a picture of me in this. And then I have a bathroom selfie of me in this. And you can see these 2 sweaters, the same pattern, and different yarns and different sizes, and see how they look on me. And I'm happy with both of them. I am going to figure out how to fix this shoulder thing because I'm not going to fuss with this every time I wear it. So I wore this all day the other day, and I was really, really happy with it. Let's see, what else did I want to say about this? Oh, this bamboo and cotton, it was really hard to weave in the ends, I can tell you. And so I started using the Stephen West way to you know, weave in your ends as you go, which is essentially just wrapping the end around the yarn as you're knitting so that it's caught behind. But you could just pull it straight out of those stitches because all the stitches were so slippery. So what I ended up doing for the most part was just doubling the yarn and actually knitting both yarns in until the end was knitted in rather than just slipped behind the stitches. I don't know if that makes sense, but it felt much more secure to me than trying to do his version. And then, you know, and I still had actual ends to weave in. What a pain in the neck. So anyway, I'm finding, I thought I saw a stitch marker. There's at least one stitch marker still in this, I think. So I have a little thing up here that is weird on this sweater that I need to fix. The one thing about this pattern that I'm not in love with, I don't know if you can see this, is this. Both sides of this have this sort of extra yarn right there. I don't know what you do about that, like short rows. You know, I mean, it looks perfectly fine when you have your arm out, but when you put your arm down, there's this big hunk of yarn, which is not terrible. Not terrible. See? Yeah, I'm going to do something about that because I love the sweater and I don't want to be doing that. So, and I don't think I want to tape it every time I wear it. But I'll tape it till I fix it. I could do that. But I will be contacting Yoshi and Lucy's dyer. I think Yoshi and Lucy are the two animals that are on the label. So I don't think the dyer is either Yoshi or Lucy. But I will contact the dyer and see if I can get a skein of Dark Magic. That's the colorway. I'm really in love with this color. I'm so happy with the sweater, except for that little problem, which I'm going to fix, and which got fixed by going up 2 sizes on the other, and that's really interesting. So that's the reason it wasn't a problem. I thought maybe I made the, you know, neckband bigger, but that's not it. The shoulders were wider, and it turned out to be the ticket. So I knit that since our last podcast, which I think was 3 weeks ago. I did another washcloth. It's a finished object. Another washcloth. We have a Clorox and water solution in a plastic bucket that we are using to like wipe off our groceries and things like that when they come in the house. I haven't seen any reports of anybody discovering that someone contracted coronavirus from touch rather than air. But we're still doing it, just, you know, to be careful. And I had made one of these before and just left it in the solution so that we were ready to open the lid. We could wipe things down. That was great. But it turned out after 6 weeks, I don't think, was this brand new in my last podcast? Did it only take 3 weeks? No. I think it was about 6 weeks. But anyway, it kind of dissolved. The last time we went grocery shopping, Dennis was like, we can't even use this. It's just coming apart. I mean, it was getting holes and stuff, so I knew it wasn't doing well. But eventually, it just came apart. So I knit another one, and we haven't used it yet. We haven't gone grocery shopping in quite a while, actually. Well, we have. Whatever. We haven't used this one yet. So our new plan is to dip it in the Clorox solution, wipe everything off, rinse this, and leave it outside to dry. And it's only got Clorox on it while we're actually using it to wipe things down. That is the new plan, which I think will work. I'm hoping will work pretty well. So there you go. So that's finished object number 2. No, 3. That's finished object number 3. 2 sweaters and a washcloth. So, and I have whips. I'm so excited. I don't think I've actually done anything on the mitts, the oven mitts that I showed you in the last podcast. But I need to finish. I'm in the middle of one mitt. I need to finish the mitt. Then I have 3 mitts that I've made, and then I need to felt them all and get them into the drawer because I think they're going to work really well. I'm making the mitts holding the yarn double, but I did a large swatch, which I turned into a pot holder singly, and that one's actually working fine too. But Dennis says it's too big as a pot holder because you know, there's one size too big and you start getting your pot holder in your pans and in the gunk, and you know, you don't want to do that. You don't want to put your pot holder in your food. So now I know, but I was just doing that as a test because I didn't know if the yarn was going to felt or not. So that was a test. So anyway, but I have whips. Even though I'm not working on those, I have other whips. So I finished the bamboo version of the sea salt. And wonderful, wonderful viewer Linda, who is so sweet, she sent me a pattern. It was a pattern I had not seen, but I loved it. And I thought it was perfect since I'm waiting to make a summer sweater. It's called Tulpe Top. Isn't that pretty? It's a very straightforward construction. I have been avoiding anything with a chart or whatever, so I said, all right, it's time for me to start knitting again and get my mojo back. And this one was so pretty, I thought, let me make it. It's a very straightforward construction. Now I had, so thank you so much, Linda. Oh my gosh, what a treat. And I've started knitting it. So this is my start. This is where I am. Now the way you make it is you do one side to here to the underarm. Then you pick up stitches on the shoulder and go down the back, and then you join it in the round and you do the body in the round. So I have finished the front with the tulips. I don't know if the tulips are going to show up very well. Oh, not so well when you do them backwards. There you go. Those show up better. They don't show up as well backwards. Put me behind it, maybe that helps. So these are the tulips. I added, for my size, it only called for 4 rows of tulips, but because I have row gauge issues, I had to add another row of tulips so that my armhole will be big enough. So this is my top, and it goes like this over my, over my arms a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of see the tulips. So Tulpe is tulips in Latvian, I was told. So that's fun to know. So anyway, the next thing to do is pick up stitches on the shoulder, along each shoulder, and knit the back down the same distance. And then I'll be on the body, and then it'll be stockinette till I get to the bottom. It has tulips on the bottom too. So anyway, it's a straightforward, it's a very square, sweater, but I'm enjoying knitting it. I'm enjoying knitting the tulips. I've enjoyed having the chart, although it's a very, very simple pattern and very easy to remember. Oops, upside down. Very easy to remember. So there are really only 2 rows where you're not, knitting in pattern, So of the 10 row. Repeat. So that's nice. So this yarn is yarn I've had in my stash for 3 years. I got it at Indie Untangled. It is Tuscan KNits It's in her fur base, which is 100% superwash merino fingering weight singles. And it's in the color Haar, H-A-A-R, which I believe is frost. And I said that on my vlog, and then I didn't look it up. Tuscan Knits. And Lorelei Erdo had knit a gorgeous shawl. I think it was a mandarin shawl, pattern shawl, with this exact yarn, the same color, the same weight, everything. And I thought, oh, this is gorgeous. I want to make that. And so I got 3 skeins of this yarn. And after I got 3 skeins of this yarn, I changed my mind and decided that I didn't want to knit that shawl. So I've had 3 skeins in my stash for 3 years now, wanting to make a sweater. See, wanting to make a sweater, but only having 3 skeins. Excuse me. So this is my swatch, and the sweater doesn't look nearly as variegated as the swatch does, which I just noticed and think is interesting. Now, I suspect once I get to the stockinette, I got pearl under me, wiggling the table. Once I get to the stockinette, that will probably change. You can see it a little bit on the ribbed top. Anyway, but it's a kind of dusty green with some grays and some browny colors, and it's really pretty. It's not bright and spring-like or summery, not very tulipy colored, as I was told, but I do really like it. And I was looking for a sweater that I could use 3 skeins of this yarn for, and I have found it thanks to Linda. It's the Tulpe top by Lisa Haynes, who is Maliha Designs. I will put it under here. Tulpe top. So I have been enjoying that knit a lot. I like the yarn, and I like the pattern, and I like that I'm knitting with a chart, so that feels good. I want to be ready to do cables and lace, and you know, come the fall, I want to be making a cable cardigan or something like that. You know, my knitting mojo has been really weird, and I've only wanted to make stockinette things, which is why I made 2 boxies this year. I showed you those before. And these sea salts have very few purl stitches, and I don't mind purling, so that's not an issue. I don't mind purling. I knit continental. Purling is no big deal. So last week, 2 weeks ago now, Chevis from the Chevy Rail Stuff podcast hosted a virtual knit night, which was a lot of fun. There were at least 50 of us there, and you know, it freaked her out that she couldn't talk to everybody, and I understand that. But it was a lot of fun. Leslie of Not Quite Enough Yarn was on there, as was Sue from the Two Tangle Skeins podcast, who that podcast isn't there anymore. And the 2 sisters from Cocktails at the Coop were there, and some of you were there, and it was so much fun. I enjoyed it a lot. And during the course of the conversation, we got on the subject of the Ripple Bralette. So this is a pattern that a lot of people are knitting, and you can go on Instagram and look at hashtag Ripple Bralette and see a gajillion bralettes. I think 2,800 projects on Ravelry, and every size of woman has made a bralette. And I thought it would be so nice to have something, and it would be fun to make my own, like, undergarment for a whatever. I don't love wearing a bra. So maybe this would work for me if it worked for women with, you know, larger ladies and that kind of thing. But this is what it looks like. So I decided that I was going to make a bralette. So here it is so far. And after I got to after I finished the front of my Tulpe, I decided, let me pick up my bralette because I want to get going. And I had gotten to the place where you started under the arm, so the back got cast off except for where the straps go, and then you continue going for the front to do these, you know, triangles. Well, I wasn't paying very much attention, apparently. Yeah, this whole sun thing isn't working out so well. I wasn't paying very good attention when I was looking at the projects that other people were posting, and they were posting, you know, themselves in it, so I could, you know, I should have paid attention. But I had the idea that these triangles were supposed to be where your boobs were, so they were like the cup of the bra. And that was not working for my girls, let me tell you. And I'm like, oh dear, what am I gonna do? I only had gotten up one side. I had done one side up to where, in theory, it should be the strap, and I was trying it on, and I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work. I don't get it, da 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 da. So then I went back and looked at the pictures better and realized that this was just the beginning of the strap, and ladies were here in this part, not up here, which made a lot more sense to me. And I'm like, okay, fine. But the problem with that was the body of my bralette in that case was way not big enough. And so, and I hadn't read any, you know, any of the notes and whatever. So, and she did not, there is not a lot of information in here about how to figure out your size, other than for a fitted bralette, choose a size with 9 to 11 inches of negative ease. But, and that's what I did, and I ended up with this wasn't going to work for me. But otherwise, there's really not very much information, which is interesting because Chevy said hers was 10 pages. So she must have gotten the DK one, which goes into more detail about how to pick a size or whatever. So it didn't matter. I tore back my triangle on the one side and went back to knitting. And the back has a twisted stitch ribbing for about 1.5 inches before you bind it off and then do the front. So when I was tearing back, I just tore back to where the bind off was. And you can even see there, because I have some stitches that are a little wacky, which I don't care. And I just kept knitting, and because I hadn't torn back to where the 3x3 ribbing is, I just kept doing I'm doing the twisted rib all the way up the back till I have enough. And the front is a 3x3 rib. So, and I don't mind doing twisted ribs, so it's no big deal to me. So I went back and I've knit, looks like a little over 1 inch more, and I'm planning to do quite a bit more. It was 7 inches, and I'm gonna go at least 12 inches. So mine is gonna have more of a body than the pattern shows, and that'll give the girls more room. And we will see what I think. I mean, my guess is this is gonna be something that I wear at home. I do not have much of an expectation that I'm going to wear this out, but I'm making this in Knitpicks Stroll in the bear, no pun intended, colorway. This is an undyed yarn, or they dye it cream, I'm not sure which. And I had bought 10 balls of this, 10 skeins of this, because this is the neutral color that's in every other stripe in my new crochet blanket that I'm making. So I had a whole stack of it, and I'm like, let me try this, because a neutral color seems the most useful. It is going to be stretched, it is fingering, so you know, it's going to be a little see-through-y, I think. So I don't think I'll be wearing this out in public, only it by itself, but it should be a nice under piece if I have, you know, a button-up shirt that I want to unbutton a little bit, or a deep V or something like that. So anyway, I'm making a ripple bralette. I can't believe I'm doing that. But I am. Like, well, and you know, and I'm pretty sure nobody's going to be seeing a picture of me in my bralette. So don't get too excited about that, let me tell you. But it has been a lot of fun to knit. So anyway, so that's fun. Let me see if I wrote anything else about this. All right. Nope. 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 I hadn't any more thoughts than I just gave you. So we shall see. Well, okay, girls. Pearl's on the alert. Maisie's on the run now. If it's not Dave the neighbor, it's the girls. So that's the last of my whips. I do want to tell you about the Stash Mal, the craft from your stash make along that I'm doing with the wonderful Leslie from Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast, who's also doing a vlog every day. I'm so glad to see her every day. It's so much fun. She and I are doing another year of the crafts from your stash. Easy peasy rules. If you own the yarn or fiber or whatever the craft material is at the end of 2019 and you started the project in 2020, it qualifies. She and I both have 2 threads on our Ravelry group page on Ravelry. A finished object, that's a no chat thread where you put your picture of your finished object. Maze was standing on my foot. Put a picture of your finished object, and I will be drawing, and Leslie and I both are doing the same thing with this. At the end of the quarter, I'm drawing a yarn prize from that. Now, the person who won for the first quarter did not contact me. So I will be drawing 2 yarn prizes from the final finished objects thread in at the end of June. One for first quarter and one for second quarter. And there's a chatter thread, so if you post your finished objects, put it in the chatter thread too, so people can ask questions and ooh and ah and tell you how gorgeous and fun or whatever. And I will be drawing a prize from that thread for a pattern from Ravelry, $10 value or less, that can be gifted, and I will gift you a pattern. There's only one of those because that pattern price was claimed after the first quarter. So anyway, please join us, and it's Stashmal 2020 on Instagram and Ravelry, and it's fun to see what you are doing. And it is, even though I bought yarn to make this, and I have yarn on the way coming from the Crafty Toads, I'm still enjoying crafting from my stash, and as I'm doing with my new Tulpe top and as I did with my other sea salt, I'm still enjoying it, and I can see I have made a very, very big dent in my stash. A dent, but a big dent, because I didn't buy any yarn last year. In fact, it was October of 2018 until I bought this Yoshi and Lucy yarn. It had been since October of 2018 since I had bought yarn. So I've been crafting from my stash for quite a while and enjoying it very much. And I still have plenty of sweaters I can do. I'm curious. I'll go back and look at how many sweater quantities I have, because I have a few. Joanne had asked me on the vlog to talk about my cowls that I have made over the years. And so since I usually don't have too much to talk about these days on my podcast, because, you know, I'm talking every morning, and I get that y'all don't want to all hear me every day, and I understand that, but I do appreciate my group that does come and keep me company during coronavirus. I really appreciate them a lot. And Joanna's one of those. And so I told her I would do a little research and try to figure out, I would gather my Cowls up and try to figure out what they are. And so I have done that. And I was able to figure out all of my Cowls except one. And it was my first one. This is the first cowl I ever made. And I could not find it in my library. I think it's inside out. I did recently wash and block it because it had gotten so stretched out. But I could not figure out what pattern this was. My guess is that it was a free pattern. I think this was my first attempt at lace. The yarn is very silky, and I'm sure I got this yarn from Yarn Box, but I cannot recall what it is. And so this is a lovely warm cowl, and I have worn it a lot. It is quite long. This is it, you know, obviously. So it wraps around many times, and it is soft and warm and yummy. But I don't have any other information for you except that it is soft and warm and yummy. I don't think, if I knew about Ravelry when I made this, I must have, because I'm sure that's where I got but I didn't know how to use the library, and I didn't know how to do a project, and I never did a project for it. And I haven't been doing projects lately either, but so I didn't find all projects for all of these, but I found some. So here is, and it's a beautiful green. That's a good depiction of the color. So this is my first cowl I ever made. I'm not sure what order I made the rest of them, so I will go in order of what I have on my list. So the next one on my list is my Copenhagen Calling. This is an Isabell Kraemer pattern. And I made this out of some beautiful Dream Color yarns that the Mean Girls had given me as a thank you gift when they came and stayed at our house for Rhinebeck 2 years ago. And this is Isabell Kraemer Copenhagen Calling. And this is a really nice cowl. But it also is really, really long, so it takes some styling. To get it right, but it's so cushy, and this yarn is really nice, so I highly recommend it. Dream in Color. I think one is a silky base, and I'm not sure if they both are. One has cashmere, I think. So this is Copenhagen Calling. There's the inside of it. How does that color work? No, I think it's slip stitches, but I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure. Can't believe I just did color work. No, I don't know. It might be slip stitches, it might be color work. I think it's slip stitches. I think I would have remembered if it was color work. Okay, so then I have another one, is the Building Hope Mobius cowl, which you can see I didn't even weave in the ends on this. I never blocked it. This was so much fun, and I made this a couple years ago. My knitting mojo had just completely deserted me, and I ended up, it's a Mobius, so it's, you know, like twisted, and I ended up making this, and it was so much fun to make, and it got me going again. It really did. The thing with a Mobius is it's all one row. The whole thing is one row. You just keep going and going and going and going and going. And it just comes out so cool with that twist. But I never block this. I wear it. Oh, I definitely wear it. I took this off the shelf by the back door that we keep our hats and things that we wear outside. Most of these cowls are upstairs in my room with my shawls, but this one isn't. Now this one was made out of hand spun. So this is Building Hope Mobius cowl by Anna Hersey, Hersey, and I'll put it in the show notes below the video. But it was so much fun to make, and it got my mojo back. It got my mojo back. But this is hand spun, my own hand spun. I think this is a Targhee. And so that's fun. It's always fun to knit with your hand spun, but I have not spun in such a long time. I got to get back to spinning. Okay. So another hand spun cowl I have is called the Below Zero cowl, and this is by Elena Nodal. And I had bought, and this one is interesting because you start, I'm going to mess up my hair, not that it looked good anyway. So you knit the, it's kind of a either way kind of thing, I don't know. So you knit the band of the, you knit the cable first, and then I think you pick up the stitches. I can't even tell. I can't even tell. Maybe you knit the whole thing sideways. There's another cable on the other side. Maybe you knit the whole thing sideways and then Kitchener it. I'm gonna have to go look because I don't even know. I think you might do that. Yeah, and Kitchener it. That's what very possible. But anyway, so it's got cables. I did this out of my hand spun as well. So it's got cables on both sides, and it's a fun, and this is, I also took from the pile that we use. So these two from hand spun we use in our winter lives. And that is the Below Zero cowl by Elena Nodal, and there is a matching hat pattern for that. The next one on my list is my 3-color cowl by Joji Locatelli. And I made this one out of milk yarn. It's called Milk Bebe Trico Art. Bebe, B-E-B-E, and Trico, T-R-I-C-O Art. And I'm pretty sure I got this yarn in Barcelona when we were visiting Barcelona. So it's like a purple, a blue, and this peachy color. Now, my problem with this one is that my cast on at this time of my knitting life was much looser than my bind off. So you can see, maybe you can see how much wider the bind off is, how much tighter the bind off is from the cast on edge. So it feels like the bind off edge has to be on the top, so I don't feel like I get the versatility that this cowl might provide. And I've never loved how I was able to style it. It feels too long to me, like there's too many sections. And because of its, well, I mean, I think this would be really warm under my coat. Maybe it would be fine, but it ends up upstairs, so it doesn't make the rotation like to grab and go walk the dogs and stuff. So this isn't my favorite. I really enjoyed knitting it, but and I really like the yarn. The yarn is really soft. It's made out of milk solids. Is that crazy? But to wear it, not my favorite. Now, one of my favorites to wear, this is the letterpress by Sarah Bauer. She is Sarah Pomegranate and has a podcast, an audio podcast called Yarns at Yinhu. And this has like the most amazing braid across the top. It's like the biggest, giantest cable. It's not sitting very well, but I wear this like with a plain top, and I wear it like it's jewelry. So, and I don't remember the yarns. I'm really sorry about that. It was a mini kit I got from somebody plus one other yarn. So this is a cowl I like a lot, and I've worn a lot. I need to block it because it's not laying quite properly now after sitting for however long. But I love this, and it stays. It's like jewelry. I wear it like jewelry, like a giant, gorgeous necklace. So this is the letterpress by Sarah Bauer. Sarah Pomegranate in her social media life. And then the last actual cowl I have is the Adama by Hilary Smith Callis. And this is a worsted weight cowl. And this has some beautiful textures, and it hangs nicely, and it works under your coat really well, except I don't keep it up downstairs, so it doesn't get nearly as much wear as it should. But you could put it up around your neck, or you could tuck it a little bit so that it's a little more open and loose and drapey like a cowl. So this is the Adama by Hilary Smith Callis, and I'm not sure. I think this might be a worsted by Dog Star Knits. He's not dying at the moment, but I think it's his worsted weight that I really loved. So anyway, so these are my cowls. Now I have one more thing to show you, but I printed out the pattern for it so you could see it, and I will go get that and be right back. Okay, this is my other thing, which is called l'envelope, which is, and I didn't pronounce that right, French for the envelope. And I made this very, 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 very early in my knitting career. The yarn I got from Yarn Box, and I can't remember what it is, and I will put that in the show notes because I think I have a project page for this. But this is what it's supposed to look like. I mean, it just comes right under her bust, down a little bit. The long point goes to her waist. So this is what mine looks like. So to say I didn't end up putting the arm. There actually, one side of it is like connected like a sleeve. To say I didn't get gauge is an understatement. I have I can remember when I was knitting this, and I was not a confident knitter, but I wanted to try it, and I tried a gauge swatch, and I couldn't figure out. So you could do this either in seed stitch or in garter stitch, and I couldn't figure out how to count my rows. There's several different versions of this, and so clearly I made a mistake. First of all, the pattern calls for worsted, and I'm not sure this is worsted weight yarn now that I say that. Could be. Or it could be more like DK, so that could have been part of my problem. Obviously, I didn't get gauge, but I knit this whole thing. Oh, I wish I could remember the name of the yarn. And I never even wove in the ends. I didn't sew the sleeve in the way it was supposed to be, because once I got it, I realized I'm never going to wear this. This is crazy. So I had it in my stash pile for a while. And when I went through my stash pile, I thought, well, you know, I mean, it works as a little bit like a cape. So it's not been in my stash pile for a while to take it apart. Feederbrook Farms. This yarn is from Feederbrook Farms. And you can see it's a marled, maybe you can't tell because of the light. It's a marled yarn, which I didn't love at the time. But now that I'm a spinner, I like it a lot more than I used to. So anyway, I printed out this. So number one, so you could see what it was supposed to look like. And I'm not that good about putting pictures from, you know, Ravelry in here. But also because I still think it's really cool, and it's worsted weight, and I'm thinking about making it again. Only actually making it like right, so that it's this size instead of going down to my knees. I mean, it's just a cool shoulder wrap, you know, the kind of thing you wear on an airplane because it's chilly on your back or neck or whatever. Anyway, as an early knitter, I was drawn to interesting patterns that sort of were unusual or useful. I have a copy of Sleeves. I can't remember the name of that designer. I'll figure it out and put it in the show notes if I remember that I talked about Sleeves. I'm writing that down. And it is a scarf, but the long points of the scarf are actually tubes, and so you can put your arms in it, and goes from being a scarf to being like a long sleeve shrug, which I thought sounded really cool. And so I bought the pattern and then realized that if I was so cold that I needed sleeves, I would be even colder around my neck, and I wouldn't want to take my scarf off. So it doesn't really work for me. So I have quite a few patterns that I have bought and never knit. But I did knit this one to, you know, not the best result. Never wore it anywhere. But I printed it because I'm thinking, who knows? Maybe I want to do it again. But Pamplemousse. So anyway, that's the last of my cowls, and it's not really a cowl. It's a little bit more like a shawl or a you know, one of those big poncho, something like that. So anyway, that is, there you go, Joanne. Those are my cowls. I only couldn't find one, which I think is doing pretty well. So on the home front news, you know, everybody's in and home, so not much news. The parents are well. Their facility is going to be COVID testing everyone at the facility, including all the staff and all the residents next week, so that'll be good. This is because the governor issued some orders. She said it was a little bit confusing. We just decided this is what we're going to do. So it's not because they suspect coronavirus has come into the facility, so they just wanted to let me know in case my parents called worried, but my parents won't call worried because they'll be glad to be tested. And they're doing fine. They have had a couple of events where they were out of their apartments and sort of with everybody, but everybody was at their own table. They did a picnic out on the patio. Everybody got their own table. And then on Memorial Day, they had a little musical event where everybody was social distanced. But my parents are lucky because they have each other, and you know, it really makes a big difference. Almost everyone else in the facility is in an apartment by themselves, and so they must be going somewhat crazy. My in-laws are going crazy, but my mother-in-law started going to the grocery store and things like that. But they're doing fine. My father-in-law is feeling his age. He's going to have his 103rd birthday in 2 weeks. So, yeah, he's feeling his age, which, you know, is a heavy burden. My mother-in-law's feeling her age because she's taking care of him. She's 89 and a half. So, but they're doing fine. I'm going a little crazy. So, we're going to be going over to visit them next week sometime. we'll keep our masks on the whole time. Our county is still in lockdown. Some of Pennsylvania has opened up a little bit. Up where my parents are and where my brother lives has opened up a little bit, but not too much. I talked to my brother. He's planning on not really changing his behavior. He has been laid off. He was laid off. His job is, selling alcohol to bars and restaurants. So needless to say, that ain't happening. And so he's filed for unemployment, hasn't gotten any benefits yet, which I understand is very common, which is unconscionable because people need the money now. But he's working on his garden. He's even growing mushrooms. He's growing mushrooms. He's got this whole contraption set up, and there's a building on the property that was the winery back in the day, and so he's working on mushrooms and growing. So good luck to him. The kids are doing well. We're going to Skype with the kids, Jason and Allison, and the granddaughters tonight. Isabell graduated from first grade. Well, didn't graduate, but finished first grade. Her last day of school, she wore her pajamas because she's home. I said, oh, we had pajama day at school sometime too. So anyway, she's a second grader now. She did very well, and her teacher is quite confident she will be ready for second grade. I personally am quite confident she would be ready for third grade, but that's not how it's working. And my daughter and I have been Zoom crafting together since I had to figure out how to do Zoom a little bit when Chevy Rel did her knit night. I have Zoom now, and so Christy and I are Zoom crafting together, which means we just sit there and craft and talk, and we've done that 2 weeks in a row, and I'm assuming we're going to do it tonight because we do it on Sunday nights. So I've really been enjoying that, and we're not that good about keeping in touch, and so this is a way for us to keep in touch and see how we are. And she's an extrovert, I'm an extrovert. This lockdown is not doing, she's not happy with that. She teaches at the college level in Mississippi, and so her classes went all online. She's been working at home for quite a while. Her fiance, who she lives with, has also been working at home. So but he's an introvert, so that works for him. So anyway, she and I are having a craft night on Sunday nights, and that's working out really, really, really well. So that's it. I've been doing my Corona vlog every day. I haven't missed a day yet in 71 days. Today was my 71st edition of the Corona vlog. Crazy, right? Really crazy. I just ramble for a few minutes every day, talk about yesterday and what I plan to do. Sometimes I talk about knitting, but not as often as I might. And I talk about how my weight's going up, my weight's going down, I'm working on this, I'm working on that, I'm not doing my exercises. And I've started playing poker. You can play poker in Pennsylvania now, online poker. You only play with other Pennsylvanians. They want to make sure they can regulate it and tax it. But that's fun, and I had a very big win last week. I think it was last week. And so now I am playing on my winnings and not on my deposits. So I got my deposit, I took my deposit back out of my poker site. So now I have, yarn money. So that's fun when you can play on your winnings instead of on your allowance. We'll see how long that lasts. But I've been having fun doing that. So that's all. I'm not sure what else to tell you. But I've been doing a lot of knitting. I haven't worked on my blanket at all. I haven't worked on my Pearl just came to say hi. Do you want to say hi? Yeah. Haven't worked on my oven mitts, but I'll do that. Try to get those done for the next podcast. And I guess it looks like I'm on an every 3 weeks for a podcast schedule at this point. I want to make sure I have a lot of crafting to show you. Since I talk every day, it's hard to figure out what I've said and what I haven't said on the podcast, because I know some of you are only watching the podcast, which I get, totally get. So anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope you're all well. The world is changing so fast. I'm very concerned about our cities and how we can get justice. How we can get justice for our people. I don't know. So, the news is hard to watch, and donate where you can and do what you can, but we need justice in our country. But meanwhile, I will hope that you're all well from the pandemic and holding up okay through whatever quarantine you're going through. I know a lot of places are opening up. I hope that's working out safely for everybody. And so I'll say goodbye until next time. I hope you have lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later.